Thank you for joining the Reverend Dr. Sean Michael Greener, radio host, national pastor, author, and speaker for Sundays with Dr. Sean. Hold on tight. Here comes the truth.
This isn't Sunday, and I haven't always been a pastor. Now you're going to find out why. We are at war, and we don't know it. Some of us don't know it. Too many of us don't know it. Anarchists, liberals, Democrats, they're winning. Yeah, I looped them all together because they're all one and the same. You remember that phone-based Chinese communist COVID-19 contact tracing surveillance crap they were all for, all the liberals were for? Remember that? How about we use that contact tracing and surveillance to identify looters, rioters, murderers, and treasonous scum? I want to give you some numbers over the past week. Thank you to my buddy and former compatriot Bob Hartman for posting this. This is in the last 96 hours. This is reality. Before I start, I don't want to hear any of this bovine feces about we need to have a conversation about race in America. No, we don't. No, we don't. That's the biggest lie ever perpetrated upon a good, decent people. Best place in this world for people of color is the United States of America. You say, well, that's easy for you to say. You're white. The numbers, the data, the real stuff. How many jobs, how many homes, how many businesses, how much wealth people of color hold. I'm going to give you some numbers here in a minute about the reality of crime in America. And I'm not going to lump it on to one particular group. I'm going to tell you this. Antifa is made up mostly of privileged white kids with an allowance. You heard that right. Privileged white kids with an allowance. A big allowance. A lot of money. Mom and daddy don't pay attention to where that money goes. And they use that money to try to overturn the country. And they have no plan. They have no plan for what happens when the country gets overturned. They got no plan at all. You need to understand something very clearly. These are scum. They're murderers. And they need to be put down. Now, I'm going to say this as a caveat before I get into these very real numbers. If you're a black person and you feel you have been maligned, you have had injustice perpetrated to you, on you, take a hard look in the mirror first. Don't spend a bunch of time looking at me first and accusing me of stupid stuff I've never done. And never would do and never would support. We're in complete 100% agreement that what that one police officer did was wrong. Horribly wrong. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Hands up, I can't breathe. You make up all your stupid slogans and your stupid signs. All you want. You're dumb. You're dumb. I'm tired of pretending like those people out there should be listened to. I'm not saying all black people, not at all, not remotely. Not remotely. Don't even try to twist it. You can if you want to, but you're wrong and you look even stupider. You said you want no justice, no peace. The man's in jail. Maximum security jail. Under close watch. The other three, pending charges. Pending charges. They're all being sued civilly. The city's already being sued civilly, and they should. They suck. Minnesota, Minneapolis, got a lot of work to do. But so does Chicago. So does New York City. So does L.A. So does San Francisco. So does Baltimore. So does Philadelphia. You note any commonalities there? Every single one is a liberal-run city from top to bottom. Tired of hearing about it. The problem is me. And by the way, Joe Biden, I have a little bit of sympathy for you because you're sick. You pinned my badge on when I was a police officer. That's where the sympathy ends. Shut your mouth. Go retire somewhere. I'm done hearing your stupid rhetoric that somebody else writes for you. Done. You're doing the wrong thing. 38 years you've been in Washington. And you haven't done squat. You telling me you're going to get in there now and do something good. You don't do anything good. All you do is talk. You wait to hear who the perpetually aggrieved are, and then you mimic their talk. And you don't say anything. And by the way, the most racist president we ever had was Barack Hussein Obama. And all he did was set up for this. I'm done hearing it. So I've got a word for you. Good black folk who feel aggrieved. Number one, take a look at yourself. Number one, take a look at me. Take a look at my record. Don't just look at you. Take a good searching inventory of you. But I'm going to tell you something. You better take a look at me, because I've lived my life in a way that doesn't represent racism in any way, and so have 99.999% of my friends. Stop making up this crap about you wait for something to happen and then you go comment on it. It wasn't soon enough. It didn't, but the charges that came out. Why wasn't it murder one? Because murder one doesn't fit. I don't care what that goofball helmet head wearing Nancy Grace. You know why she's not an attorney anymore? You know why she's on TV? Because she's a loudmouth. And that pays. That gets people to watch. Gets clicks. Stupid move, Fox. She's a fool. She's wrong about almost everything she says. She speaks in all caps and exclamation points because that's what gets people to listen. Murder one doesn't apply. If they amend the charge to murder one, guess what? Now you've opened it up for a chance for this murderer to get off. This police officer did this. He's scum. And you know what protected him? Liberal unions. You wanted it? You got it. Minneapolis, Minnesota. There's a lot of good police officers there, but let me tell you something. There's a lot of good police officers all across this country. And while we're at it, you want to change the police department? Go apply. Pass the physical test. I'll tell you what. Pass the written test. We all had to. Pass the written test. You think you know how to do it all that better? Go pass it. Go pass the test. And then when you finish that test and you score in a high enough group, then guess what? You can take the physical test. You want to take the physical test? You want to pass the physical test? You want to pass the written test? Guess what? You pass in a high enough group? Guess what? Go on and take that psychological test. Oh, wait, we got to do a background first. Hold up. We got to do a background first. We got to make sure we're not hiring criminals. Oh, I know you're not a criminal, right? Because you know the answer to everything. So what you going to do? Go ahead on, take that test. Take that written test, score high enough. Take that physical test, score high enough. Take that background. Oh, we're going to look in your background. And if you're a criminal and a drug dealer and all that other stuff, guess what? You don't get to go forward. So guess what you have to do before? This all of us have to do. Before you do all that, you want to be a police officer because you know better how to do it. You have to keep your nose clean. You have to do the right things. Not just one day, every day. You have to do it every day. And one stupid mistake can keep me out. It can keep you out too. You have to do all that stuff. You have to do all that stuff. Then guess what? You got to take a psychological. You got to have a psychiatrist examine you. Make sure you know a little bit of something that makes some common sense. Make sure you don't have any proclivities or propensities. Make sure you don't have any problems with your armor. Make sure you don't have any psychological issues that would make you dangerous. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then when you pass that, if you're in the final group, that's big enough group to choose from, you take all those grades and all those scores and all those background checks and interviews and you say, all right. And then guess what you got to do? In my case, 6 months academy. 6 months police academy. Some you go live at. You go live there. You come home on the weekends. And some, you come home every night. You got to pass that. You got to pass all the rigorous academics during that time frame. You got to pass all the physical stuff during that time frame. 6 months. You got to do it right. Got to do well enough. Got to pass high enough. You've got to succeed. You got to do something to succeed. You don't get self-esteem just given to you. You got to earn it. You don't earn the badge and gun by sitting at home and criticizing, saying what everybody else does is wrong. You got to go past all that stuff before. Then you got to do the 6 months in the academy, and you got to pass that. And then guess what? It's not over then. Then you got to go to field training. 6 months of field training officer. Riding in the car with somebody that's going to watch everything you do. That's what you got to do. That's what you have to do. That's what it takes. It takes all of that to become a police officer in most decent places. You want to tell me how to do it? You want to tell my brothers and sisters in blue they don't know how to do it? Guess what? I got a news flash for you. Go do it. So easy, go do it. Go do it. You're so Billy Badass, go do it, smart mouth. It's easy to take a sign that somebody else wrote for you, wave it around and throw rocks and hammers and bricks, spray paint over everybody else's hard work. It's easy to do that, fool. It's easy to do that. It's easy to claim perpetual aggrievement. You bunch of race-baiting, America-hating fools. No, I don't take you lightly at all. I take you exactly as it comes. Exactly as you present yourself. You're a bunch of murdering, looting, treasonous criminals. And I'm done with you. I'm done. You want a police force that represents the people? Newsflash. Go join. Oh, wait, no. I'm going to tell you something. Because you can't pass. You can't pass. You can't get through all that because you're a whiny little fool. You're a whiny little punk who beats up on women and beats up on old folks who've gone to that job in your stupid community where you can't even pick up your own trash. And you've torn up their shop and you've beat them with 2x4s. Click, click, boom. Somebody on a building with a scope needed to take out you punks. Leave your body there. Just tape a little sign, or better yet, staple a sign to your back saying this fool wanted to raise his hand to old folks. How about those ones that block the streets? How about those ones that block the streets? How about them? I-95, the 5, I-40, Route 13, all these other places. How about those folks? Yeah, you set fire to a house and had little kids in it. You set fire to a house and it had little kids in it. And then you blocked the street so the fire department couldn't get there and go save those children. And they're dead because you murdered them. You murderous, treasonous pieces of crap. Time to take them out. This is who is standing on the line. You say, Black crime, white on black crime, and white police officer killing black men, young black men. The most dangerous place in the world for a black man is on the streets. Not true, you lying bunch of punks. You say, well, maybe they don't know him. It just seems like it. It just seems like it because of this and that and the other thing. And it's always on television. It's always on television because the media is complicit. The media is complicit. If you've ever put on a badge and put on a gun and a bullet-resistant vest and carried around 40 pounds worth of gear for 12 and 16 hours, you'll know that's a lie. You'll know that's a lie. I just talked to one of my black friends who is a retired police officer, and I said, tell me about when you rolled up on some folks of your own color. He said, I hated it, man. I hated it. I hated rolling up in those neighborhoods because they act a fool. And they're the first ones to make claims against you. You're trying to save their life, and they're making it harder for you every day. Here's a news flash. More white people are killed by cops than black people by a long shot. Let's look at white and black crime. Let's look at white and black crime. Let's look at black on black crime. You say Black Lives Matter. Why do you keep killing yourselves? Tired of hearing it. From the abortionist Blade, 82% in the city of Wilmington, Delaware, never survived the womb. From that, all the way up until you're shooting each other over a corner. You're shooting each other over a corner. Gang. We in the gangs. This is our corner. Don't disrespect me. Really? You disrespect yourself every day. Every day. I don't want to hear it. I don't hear it. You can't even pick up trash from your own corner. Don't want to hear it. Liberal cities. Liberal cities. Drive through one sometime. Look around. Look around. Take some stuff for real. So in my conversations, my buddy, I helped take care of him the last 3 years of his life. His name is Eric. Went all the way from kindergarten through high school with him. We've been friends. We've been friends since we were little kids. He happens to be black. I happen to be white. He and I used to have real conversations. Several of my black friends just passed away, had heart attacks, different things, classmates and such. And we had real conversations. And I said, man, I can buy that. I want you to know that when I was in the Navy, the United States Navy, oh, you want to change the world? Go apply to that. You're so great. We should listen to you. Go apply to the Navy. Marine Corps. Army. Air Force. Coast Guard. Do something worth something. Stand around in the corner. Waving your arms, talking about injustice. Yeah, there have been injustices. You're dadgum right. You're dadgum right. Those people you're burning the buildings in your own neighborhood, those people you're beating up and killing, they didn't have nothing to do with it. They didn't have nothing to do with it. So, let's flip that script. If we're allowed to do what you do, guess what? Guess what? What if police officers come to your town, come to your neighborhoods, just start shooting people? Why are you shooting everybody? Why are you shooting everybody? Because an injustice was done. I'll show you an injustice right now. An Atlanta police, this is just the last 96 hours, fools. This is the last 96 hours. An Atlanta police officer was run over by a protester. Run over. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer was shot in the back of the head while struggling with a rioter. Shot in the back of the head. 4 St. Louis police officers shot by an active shooter. A New York police officer was struck by a vehicle. 3 Buffalo law enforcement officers were struck by a vehicle in front of the police station. 3 Davenport, Iowa law enforcement officers were ambushed and 1 was shot. 132 officers were injured in Chicago during riots. 9 Pittsburgh officers were injured by objects thrown by protesters and rioters and criminals during a riot. Several officers in Rhode Island injured during riots. An active shooter opened fire at the Oakland Police Department. 2 officers were struck in the head with projectiles in Santa Ana, California. 2 Richmond officers were shot in Virginia. 1 officer was struck in the head by a brick in Albany, New York. 4 Prince William County police officers sustained severe head injuries from projectiles. 7 officers were injured in Sacramento. Several officers were shot at and injured in Lynchburg, Virginia. Several Champaign, Illinois officers were injured. 3 Oak Law police officers were injured. 21 officers injured in Salt Lake City. At least 50, now it's 67, Secret Service agents were injured by Molotov cocktails in Washington, D.C. 3 Denver police officers were run over by a vehicle. 33, now that number is 61, New York police officers were injured during riots. 6 Athens, Georgia police officers were injured during a protest. 2 Capitol police officers, now that's 13. This was 96 hours ago. Now it's 13. Capitol police officers were injured during a riot in Harrisburg. 12 Las Vegas Metropolitan police officers were injured during riots. Now several have been killed. 21 Minneapolis law enforcement officers injured in riots. 1 Federal Protective Services officer shot and killed. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen clearly. Listen clearly. And look, I'm not going to urge you to share this. You don't have to share it. You don't have to do nothing with it. You don't have to do a thing with it. I don't care what you do with it, folks. I don't care. Other than you better recognize. Look, as a war fighter and as a warrior and as a sheepdog, I can tell you this. What I just read to you, that means we're at war. Look, I'm willing to sit down with anybody, and have a conversation about anything. You want to talk about race? I'll bring the facts. I'll bring the facts. You bring the facts too. You want to raise your voice? Start yelling and screaming? Sean Greener's going to unhook. Dr. Sean's going to unhook and disembark and disengage. Because you've proven to me all this talk about wanting to talk and have a conversation. And while we're at it, corporate America, I've got a news flash for you. Stop with all those dumb commercials talking about we need to have a conversation about race. You're trying to barter. You're trying to barter with Antifa. You're trying to barter with warmongers. Let's talk real quick. Some real talk about blocking the road. You want to stand in front of a road? You want to beat on people's cars? You want to drag people out of cars and beat them to death? You want to steal from them? Is that what you want to do? You want to steal sneakers and jeans, TVs, Rolex watches, 70 cars? You want to burn police cars? You want to do all that? Is that what you want to do? Because you're mad? Okay. What I just read to you, I'm mad about. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to make it right? You want people to join the police department? Hey, beginning of this broadcast, I told you what it takes. Go on. If you think you can do it, do it. You think you can do a better job? Can you even get hired, fool? Can you even... Well, the reason I can't get hired is because institutional racism in the schools. Really? Because in 71% all around the country, you can't say it's because you're hungry. Because we feed you. The American taxpayer, red, black, and white. We feed you every meal at school. I'll have you know. Even during this stupid Chinese COVID-19 virus, Chinese communist virus, when all the kids were home, every kid delivered food to their homes because we were afraid you wouldn't have food. We're not good people? You don't think Americans are good people? Let's take your family, right? Okay. We're going to do a little comparison for you. You don't think America's good people? Because of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? Okay. All right. How about your family? You got a crazy uncle? You got a cousin doing a life bit in state prison for murder or rape? Got anybody in your family does some bad stuff? Got any drug dealers in your family? Got any people that raped anybody? Got any people that been doing a little pedophile activity? Anybody? Your family's perfect. Your family's perfect. You got nobody? Interesting. You know, we say things like, bad apple spoils the bunch, right? I know how hard it is to become a police officer. I did it twice. I know how hard it is to serve in the military. I did that. I know how hard it is to become part of an elite government agency. I did that. I know what it feels like to have my body broken. I did that. I did that for the red, white, and blue. And I served among heroes. And I'm going to tell you something. You go into Arlington. You go to the national monuments that you pieces of crap defaced. You pieces of ever-loving, worthless crap don't deserve the O2 that you're breathing in and out, polluting the rest of the world, defacing national monuments. Churches that been here since this country got here. Churches. Oh no. Not tolerating it. Not tolerating. You got crazy people in your family? Because you know what? Guess what? Guess what? Every now and then somebody oversells a resume. And they come in to a job and they're not prepared. They can't do it. Every now and then somebody says, I'm a good person. Let me be a police officer. And they get in there and they can play the game. They can talk the talk. Happened in the Navy. Happened all in the military. Happened in different government agencies I served with. Happened in my own company, executive protection team. It happens. It happens. Sometimes people talk a good game. And they talk their way in. They look and sound the part and they get in. Same way with the police department. But I'm going to tell you something. My black friends that I served along with, 99% of them, I'm going to tell you something. I think of Robert Norris, one of the best dudes I ever knew. One of the best dudes I ever knew. Got murdered. He was an awesome cop. Robert rode with me a couple of times. And Robert and I talked about, what do you do? What do you do when you roll up in a community and everybody's outside yelling and screaming and you got to go in the place you've been 13 different times? And he goes, you know what? I love my job and I love my fellow officers, the men and women that I serve with. I love them. But man, I hate going there. Tired of it. I know how hard I worked for what I got. I know how hard I worked. I know how hard I work every day. What's the answer? Is it a conversation? No. I'm going to say something very hard for people to take in, but it's true. And really, you know it's true. You don't want to believe it's true, but you know it's true. All this, we're going to have a conversation mess that people say, from CEOs of companies to public figures. Conversation isn't what we need right now. This is being done to get President Trump out of office by evil, treasonous, murdering pieces of crap. You know it. You know it. You know it. What you also know is a conversation isn't what needs to be had right now. Look, when people are shooting across the line, killing innocent people, setting fire, trillions of dollars, who do you think is going to pay for this? It ain't you. You've never paid for anything in your life. You bunch of criminals. You've never paid for anything in your life. Never, not one time. You've had your hand out your whole life. That's what you've been about day one. Day one. And frankly, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing about how I'm not generous. I'm tired of hearing about how I'm unkind to certain people. Now, you'll never meet a more kind person. And most of the people I serve with, the men and women on the police department, you never met somebody more patient. Ride in a police car. Run one shift. Run one midnight tour. See what you think. See what you think. Here's the thing. Every time you stand around and talk about conversation, we need to have a conversation. That spurs them on. That emboldens them. And it buys them more time. Because they're not interested in conversation. They're interested in forcing you to give them more stuff. They back you off of the line of good judgment and good behavior and expectation. Every time you go, don't call me a racist. I'm not a racist. No. This isn't about race. This isn't about race. This isn't about George Floyd. I'm going to say this one more time, then I'm done saying it. One more time. If I were there, and if 99% of the police officers that I honorably serve with, my brothers and sisters, were those 3 officers, I got a news flash for you. That punk-ass white boy, that honky, that whatever other colors people want to call him, I know honky's old. Whatever the people, racist, whatever you call them, whatever. There's no evidence to indicate that because he's white and the victim is black, that it was a racist act. No proof of that at all. 72% of all violent crime is black on white. 90+% of all black people killed are killed by black people. Police officers kill proportionately, exponentially more white people than they do black people. You can't keep saying racist. You can't. We're not going to stand for it. Don't fall for it, people. I'm encouraging you to stop. When you hear somebody start talking about racist, put that on ignore. Turn it around and go, you're a racist. You want to know who the racist is? You're a racist. You fool. Learn something. Get you some education. Stay in school 5 minutes. I don't want to hear any more about I'm a racist. That is a extortion. That's an extortion word to try to get more out of me. I'm done giving you stuff. I'm done. You done burnt that bridge 2,700 times. I'm done. Nope. I'm telling you 99.999% of the officers that I served with would have stepped in, would have put a knee in that police officer's shoulder and backed him off. Not the way we're doing it. They would have moved him off scene. Get out of here. Go back to the station and stay there. Wait for me. Thin blue line. I'm going to tell you something. One of the most active organizations within a police department is the Professional Standards, otherwise known as Internal Affairs Department. And police officers typically aren't big fans of IA. They're not. They call them the Rat Squad. But I'm going to tell you something. I've served with police officers who there was a bad officer came along, got through the ranks. We made it clear. This job's not for you. This job is not for you. We did it in lots of different ways. But I'm going to tell you something. A police union is needed. Why? Because everybody knows how to do it better than the person actually doing it. Everybody knows how to be the righteous best. Why don't you just shoot the gun out of his hand? Why didn't you just shoot the barrel? Why didn't you just shoot him in the hand or shoot him in the foot? He only had a knife and you have guns. Why didn't you try to tase him first? And then why didn't you just try to use nice words? He had a rough life. Talk nice to him. You wouldn't make it one tour. You wouldn't make it one tour. I had a person ride with me. Social justice warrior. Peed their pants. Peed their pants, uniform pants, The first time somebody did like that on, peed their pants, I said, this job's not for you. This job's not for you. So what do we do? What do we do? First things first. These officers, the ones dead, lives ruined, they don't die in vain. Because what they've said isn't eye for an eye. They've said hundreds of eyes for an eye. If you're to believe their narrative, which is BS, you know it is. It's bovine feces. You know it's not about race. You know it's not about George Floyd. It never has been. This is a function of any job of massive responsibility and stress. Any job. I'm not saying stress led to this. You look at this guy's record. He was in the Navy. I'm gonna use a curse word. Y'all be all right. Pastor gonna say a curse word and put it in quotes. But in the Navy, we would call people like that guy a shitbird. Y'all who was in the Navy know that that's the term. That's a term we used to use. Anyway, a feces bird. And nobody wanted to serve with them. Same way on the police part. Nobody wants to serve with a bum. They don't want to do it. Nobody wants to serve with somebody who's going to get them in a fight all the time when it doesn't need to be a fight. Nobody wants to serve with a person who mysteriously can't find where the domestic in progress is because they want to ride around. They can't read a map, can't read a GPS. So they ride around. So then you get there first and then you got to deal with it. And then they show up because they don't want to do paperwork and they don't want to have to confront some dangerous stuff. We know those people. Any of the law enforcement, listen, you know it too, don't you? Oh, I was coming all the way across town. Always the last one. Last one to arrive. You got to stop. The question is, what do we do about it? You got to stop playing their game. You got to stop playing their game. Today. Today's the day you stop playing their game. How do you do that? First of all, get a Sharpie. Write this in big block letters and put it on your refrigerator wherever you go the most. Remember this in November. Remember this in November. You say you want a better government. You say you want better decisions. I want you to understand something very real. The liberal politicians in these liberal cities, all the way from governor to mayor to police chief, want this to happen. All the old ladies getting beaten by 2x4s trying to protect their shop, they want it to happen. The trillions of dollars of damage, they want it to happen. Oh, they'll just go to the federal government. Whatever insurance is paying, the federal government pay. You'll pay. Remember this in November. Remember it. They left you defenseless. Now, you need to understand one more thing. The National Guard, when they call out the National Guard, these liberal people, the only reason they're doing it is so that on film, you will see people in uniform, military uniform, beating on, shooting, smacking, pepper spraying, innocent. They're just exercising their First Amendment. Isn't that something? 1 second they're swinging a 2x4, throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails and stealing Rolexes from shops. No, it's not a small percentage of the protesters. By the way, stop saying stuff that isn't true. It's not a small percentage of protesters. It's not a small percentage. Stop saying lies. It's not true. It's a humongous percentage of protesters. They're not protesters. They're rioters. They're criminals. They're murderers. They're thieves. They're rapists. Yeah, rapes are happening. I know. Hard to believe. And while all this is going on, the other criminal element is running around stealing from people's houses. Guess why? Because there ain't no cops coming. The woman the poor woman that's been married to or living with a man that beats on her and beats on her kids can't get help now. Why? Because they're busy dealing with this stupid stuff. They don't want it to stop until the day after Election Day. That's reality. They want video of that, and that'll be in every anti-Trump commercial you ever saw. Every Republican running for any office, that'll be the video. That'll be the loop. You say, come on. That is such a negative way to look at life. No. I've lived it. I've lived it. We have just come through one of the hardest, and I'm going to say needlessly hardest times in American history. A scam. And President Trump, once he was on to him, you'll notice Fauci and Birx, no more prominence, no more out front. But it's something crap. What happened to all those people worried? What happened to all those people worried about catching the COVID? I can't come to work. I don't want to get the COVID. I don't want to get the Rona. I'm not coming to work. I'm going to collect this check. $600 extra. I'm going to collect this check. I care about my health. You ought to care about my health too. All of a sudden, that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We can be out there in the crowd. Why not? We can be out there in the crowd. Yeah, because we're standing up for ourselves, our black brothers and sisters, being disproportionately killed. We can't even go out in the street. We're afraid of being shot. 92% of all violent crime is black on black crime. 72% of all violent crime is black on white. There are disproportionately more white people killed by police officers than black people. That's reality. That's the hard reality. You can talk a bunch of smack about we need to have a conversation, and I'm going to tell you bovine feces in the swirling wind device. Because that's what's happened. The feces has done hit the fan. And Americans, you're either tired of it and not going to put up with it anymore, or you're going to sit back in and go, well, insurance will pay for the damaged things. They get away with it this time. And this is a lurking army. Let me tell you this real quick. Let me just give you some real talk here. These are people that are all around you every day. Right? Moms and dads. These are people that are all around you every day. When all this isn't happening, they're somewhere. They're not all in the basement. Talking their social justice warrior bull crap. They're around you, pouring your coffee, if they have a job. 2 lawyers, Ivy League lawyers. Disbar them, but put them in jail because they are committing treason. They're inciting riot and mayhem. They're participating in it. Disbar them. Police officers are at their brink. They're at their brink. They're at their breaking point. I would say they're past it. If the majority of police officers weren't the caliber of people that they are, you'd know it by now. I'm never one to tell people to arm themselves because you need to have comfort and skill at arms. That only comes with training and practice. Not just practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. But I'm going to tell you, come down my street. Come down my street throwing Molotov cocktails. Come down my street holding a bunch of 2x4s and baseball bats with nails driven in them and screws. Go ahead and reach for a gun. Go ahead. I'll leave your body right where it lays. I will leave it right where it lays. And then I'll come put a staple. Maybe I'll use a nail. This fool thought he was going to take over my country. This fool thought he was going to come take what I've worked for. This fool thought he was going to set fire to something that belongs to me. This fool thought he was going to stand in front of my car and beat on my car. This fool thought he was going to stand in front of me and spit in my face and swing a 2x4. This fool thought he could keep me from getting to the store or to my doctor or my church. This fool thought he's going to set fire to my church. This fool thought he was going to beat on some old people. Nope. That's going to be a big old sign I'm going to nail to him. I might need 2 or 3. You better figure out what you're willing to put up with. You better figure out what it's costing you now, because you say, well, I can't afford to step in front of all that. You stop this by being the majority. I've said this. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Good and decent people die because what we think is good and decent people stood idly by and watched. They counted the cost of getting involved, and they said it's not worth it. They said it's not worth it. This isn't about racism at all. It never has been. It's time for you to decide what you're going to put up with, and then don't put up with it anymore. But if you decided it's not worth your effort or your involvement, shut your mouth. Put your keyboard down and step away from the computer, because you need to stop flapping your jibs. Stop it. Stop it. Stop talking a bunch of crap. Done with all that. Done with it. America, we get what we put up with. It's time we stop putting up with this mess. And oh, by the way, President Donald J. Trump, he walked in the war zone the other day, much to the chagrin of his Secret Service complement. How do I know that? Because I'm buddies with many of them, but close friends with several. And I can tell you this. They didn't want him to do it. Please don't do it. And then he stood in front of a church and he held up a Bible. He didn't say a bunch of stuff. He just held up a Bible. If you have a problem with that, then you don't know what real leadership really is. Stop putting up with it. Or don't. But get what you put up with. Share this if you want. It's up to you.